Mungu Mwenyezi, tunakushukuru kwa mchana huu wa leo, na tunapoangazia neno lako tunaomba uzungumze nasi katika jina lake Yesu Kristo aliye Bwana na Mwokozi wa maisha yetu. Amen. Tunashukuru sana, na katika devotion yetu tunasoma katika kitabu cha Matthew 28 verse 19. Na Biblia inasema, nitasoma kwa Kiingereza: Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you, and behold, I am with you always to the end of the age. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Tunaposoma fungu hili, tunaona there is a great commission. Yesu anapatia wanafunzi wake jukumu la kuweza kuenda kuhubiri ulimwenguni kote. Na unapoenda ulimwenguni kote, unakutananga na watu wa kila aina, wa lugha tofauti, mataifa tofauti, na hata pia njia ya mawasiliano ya hao watu wa mataifa ni tofauti. Haiwezi kuwa the same. Na ndio kwa sababu naona kwamba Yesu akaambia wanafunzi wake wasianze kazi hii pasipo kupokea Roho Mtakatifu. Kwa wanafunzi wa Yesu at the early church, the Holy Spirit aliwasaidia to overcome the communication challenge ambayo walikuwa nao. Kumbuka katika siku ya Pentecost, walipopokea Roho Mtakatifu, people came from various corners of the world. Lakini walisikia disciples wakizungumza in their own mother tongue, in their own native language, because the Holy Spirit came in to aid the challenge of communication which was present at that time. Lakini wakati tunaoishi, tumebarikiwa with the advancement of technology. The Holy Spirit cannot work whereby we have the potential, we have the ability to work. Na Biblia inasema kwamba injili hii itahubiriwa ulimwenguni kote, ndo kisha mwisho wa dunia ufanye nini? Ifike, iweze kuwa ushuhuda. Then we have a responsibility as communication department. Na jukumu letu ni kuhakikisha ujumbe huu umewafikia nini? Watu. Hiyo ndio jukumu letu. Tuseme nimekaa hapa kwa PA. Kanisa kama hili unaona watu ni wengi, wengine wanakaa kule nje. Labda wale wa nje hawezi pata nini? Kusikia ujumbe. Kwa hiyo mimi ni kuhakikisha wasikie. Na hata sio kusikia kwa kuona. Because when communicating, there's a lot. It's not only the voice, but the expressions speak a lot. Our responsibility as communication department is to ensure that this message reaches to the audience in a manner that they too will feel that they are where? They are inside here. Even if they are sitting outside, even if they are at home there, they also feel part and parcel of that church in that worship service. So that's our responsibility and our duty as communication department. Na ndo kwa sababu tumeitana kwa pamoja ili tuhimizane. Na Mungu atubariki tunapotumia this gift ya technology katika kufanya kazi yake nani? Mwenyezi Mungu. Na Mungu abariki. Hebu na tuombe. Mungu Mwenyezi, tunashukuru kwa sababu ya kutupatia jukumu la kueneza injili hii ya milele. Tunashukuru kwa viongozi wetu kutoka makanisa yetu. Tunapokuwa kwa pamoja na kujifunza masuala ya mawasiliano, tunaomba tuweze kubarikiwa na hata tuweze kuwa na ufahamu wa kutumia njia hizi za mawasiliano kusambaza injili yako ya milele ulimwenguni kote. Jina lako lidimiwe, kwani tunaomba haya kupitia Yesu Kristo aliye Bwana Mwokozi wetu. Amen.
And so communication or sound communication in a setting like a church are like in this setting. We have, number one, the source, who can be the speaker, like myself. Number two, we have the microphone that I'm using. We have the mixers. Or let me say that we have the transmitters, we have the consoles, and then we have the output. So you have all three elements of sound systems. The input, where the input we have the person or the source, the microphone, and then we have the console where we have the mixers, the amplifiers. If we go further, we can have signal processors whereby we have, we shall talk about them. And then we have now the output, which is the speakers. And then we have another key element of it which nobody takes notice of. There are two things. It is the environment where we find ourselves, which is very key, and the component of the environment. So I'll start with the environment. We have less control of the environment we find ourselves in. For example, this church and the setting. Many factors were considered when this church was being built. One, the resources available, the space, and the personnel. And so as a church of Embakasi Miradi, we have tiled ceiling, tiled floor, for example. The floor is tiled. That's very key. We'll come to it later. The walls is iron sheet, or I can say metallic. And the ceiling is also metallic. How does it affect us? I'll try as much as possible to relate with where we are. Sound travels and bounces back. And those who arrange this sound system, you'll bear with me this, that when you come here early where there's no person in the church, and you put the volume to some particular extent, then you have reverbs, or what we call echoes, in this particular church. Why? We have a hard surface floor, we have a hard surface wall, and we have a hard surface ceiling. And then you realize that as members fill the church, that reverb disappears. Why? People have come and they're not naked, they have clothes. So number one, the cloth has absorbed the reflections. Try as much as possible to have the speakers away from direct conflict with the surface that reflect. And so for example, this speaker should be slightly inclined away from the wall so that you can have much output if there are no people in the space, in this space. Another thing, that always try as much as possible to have your speakers raised above the floor, at least. So that, for example, this speaker is wasted. If we are a bigger number, for now we can fill the output because we are a small number, the church is small. But if you're a bigger number, this speaker is wasted. Why? We shall do some small drawings. Thank you. Can you all see here? And so, for example, if this speaker is on the ground, you see that all this energy has been wasted. Are you together? And so, if this is a larger congregation, then we are losing all this energy. And if the speaker was a powered speaker, we have two kinds of speakers. We have passive speaker and powered speaker. Powered speakers have their amplifiers inbuilt with them. Then passive speakers like the one we have, you must have another what? Amplifier for it. Are you together? And so if the speaker was powered, then this electricity, for example, will be going to waste this much. And so if you calculate at the end of it, the many stations you have, for those who are keen in energy saving and energy audit, they shall count this one as a loss to the system, and finally to the organization, which is in this case is a church. And so try as much as possible to have the speakers what? Speakers raised. If our speakers were suspended, like I've seen one suspended, that one over there. If, for example, so this line and that line are looped. So, for example, if you kill this line for the speaker on the ground, and if this speaker was alone, then you take that line to be higher, you shall get reverb, because the reflection of this speaker will be going much into the what? Into the ceiling or into the bar. So if possible, then that speaker could have been lowered. But again, it depends on how long our space is. You see, the further you go, the bigger this angle goes, isn't it? And so if the space is that we are interested is only here, then we are losing a little energy, both up and down. But if the church was longer, the further it is, the much what? The much energy we lose. And so our environment affects how we put our system, more so the output equipment. What can we do about how the walls are? For example, in this case, we can decide, basically, the cheapest model of it is to have drapers or have curtains which are heavy. Sawa. I know it may conflict with, because we can't have the curtains on the windows where we are in the church, but we can do something basic. We can, you see the way it has been done here in the front? We can try as much as possible to extend it so that we don't lose sound at the end of it. The floor is already done. There's nothing much we can do about the floor. But as members fill the church, we shall be able to overcome the reflections from the floor. Another aspect of our systems, I've talked about the room, is the people. The first time I talk about the people coming to fill the space. But number two is the sitting arrangement of the people. It affects how we arrange our system. The common one, before COVID, that is, we used to have members sitting majorly in pews. Let me take the traditional aspect of it. Tulikuwa kwa benches. Let's take the traditional, our rural churches, how they are. So we'll have a church like a hall like that. And we'll have our pulpit or podium here. We will have members sitting in this arrangement. At least 3 or 2 rows, depending on how big the church is. So this will determine how we put our speakers. The main speakers are always in front, so somewhere here and somewhere here. If the church is long enough or very long, then we'll have something called fill-up speakers. So these are main speakers. Then she'll have fill-up speakers either at the back or on the side. If the church has columns, then we'll have speakers at the central what? Central columns. These speakers, just like that one, If it is too much close to this, to the wall, then again we shall have what? Reflections to the wall. If the church is not metallic, but the church is a concrete wall and painted, it is highly reflective. Painted surfaces vis-a-vis the just normal concrete surfaces. The painted surfaces are, as much as they look beautiful, but for us, my brother said that is interested in noise. So for noisemakers, for us in the noise industry, we don't like paints as much as the people in interior design likes them. And so a concrete wall is better than painted for sound. And that's why you find that a new church or a new building is having a lot of echoes as compared to an old church. An old church, if it is painted, maybe it has developed cracks, and so there means that the sound can diffuse into, as opposed to a new building that is having no, all pores are sealed. And so the size of the church and the range of the church can determine how much we have our speakers. And so if you check at this sound dispersion, this one will not go very much. So the furthest can go there. And then this one, depending on the power of the speaker, this one will transmit maybe somewhere there. Let me draw straight lines. This speaker will transmit out to that point, and this one can transmit up to this point. And so if the power of the speaker can only reach here, it means that people that are sitting beyond this point will not get what? Will not get the sound. And so during the design of the church, then you should know how many speakers that what you shall need. And if the church is wide enough, then there may be need to add another speaker here. And this one, you'll find the first one going there, another one coming here, another one coming there, because at the center, it goes there. We shall talk about the speaker arrangement, or they shall be able to see this. And so the size or the space, which is factored by the people that you intend to have in the church, affects the size of the speakers, the number of the speakers, and the arrangement. If the church is small enough, we only have one speaker. If the space is just like this, then we can have just one powerful speaker to be here. And this is what we call the mono arrangement. So this one is able to go to the furthest, able to serve there, and serve here. So if we draw that, then you can able to serve. Because this sound has come to these people, this sound has come to these people. But if you're keen enough, the person that is here will not get the same intensity of the sound as somebody that is sitting here. Are you together? So that's why it's always recommended that the central space be a walkway. Why? Because the sound will be very high in this space and maybe uncomfortable to people that are sitting at the central space. And the sound at the ends of the walls is also very high. And so it is also recommended that people should not sit along these spaces. So towards the wall at the center, and at the other wall should be at least some spaces. This one has two reasons: is the intensity of the sound, and also in case there's a deflection on this surface, this person will be affected. So the arrangement of the people sitting in the church or in the space is also very key. That at the center we should always have what? A walkway. It has an effect on the sound system. But there's a common mistake for singers and to church by extension, that I understand sometimes these resources. We have this microphone and we have a group of singers crowding this microphone. This kind of microphone is directional microphone. We have a directional microphone. So it can either be omnidirectional, and this we know our God is omnipresent, and then we can have unidirectional. Most microphones which are mostly available are unidirectional. So this microphone, if I take it and place it here, it's only meant to capture the sound directly on the top. And so if you put it on the side, then the sound is not going to the where it is meant to be. Another mistake, and this now directly the singers, this is just up to you. And some MCs and is us holding this for like this. If it was an omnidirectional microphone, then you are converting it to be a unidirectional microphone. So omnidirectional microphone are able to capture at least 280 degrees of the sound from the source. So you can pick from the side, some goes up to 70, and even on these other sides. But most common ones are these kind of microphones, of which most of us have as churches and as places of worship, but we usually misuse. On a lighter note, there was a meme going around in sound fields that we will start training people by force, that every microphone will be having a barbed wire around it, so that you don't hold it like this. Please always hold your microphone by the hand, and if possible, directly unto the direction you are speaking unto. The distance of placing the microphone should always at least an inch from your mouth. It should be your thumb away from your mouth, the least. And it varies with the strength of your voice. For example, a choir is singing, and okay, let me just bring it here. It was in our later deliberation. But if a choir is singing, and you've identified that there's that soprano, sana sana wani sopranos mnakuwa na hiyo shida. There's that high pitched soprano, very high, that it overrides the rest. What do? You either move the microphone away from that person, or play with the faders of that particular line of that microphone on the mixer. But what of if this person is the one holding the microphone, and she has put it here? If she's here constantly, then you can play with the faders and move it away. But if you are able to control the distance from the mouth of this person, the basic distance should be a thumb, because it is said that a person speaking normally, the energy that he speaks should be best picked from 1 inch from the microphone. But some can still speak and they are shouting, then they can always have it at a distance. You talk about placing the microphone like this. As I said before, you have identified that the sound output has changed. Yet I have not changed my voice says it. So as I said before, it's always recommended to put the microphone directly above directly or not on the source of the sound. The other kind of speakers that you can have are the monitor speakers, as he has put it. The monitor speakers, or the stage monitor speakers, the one that you usually see in the front, majorly for performances. the people that are speaking are sitting on the podium, they may want to hear themselves, or at least know if they are audible enough. Majorly for performance, the musicians and the rest. If you are keen enough, even as I answer his question, I'll speak much about it. If you are keen enough, then you shall see that the monitor speakers are not in the same shape as the normal speakers. They are more of a wedged shape. So if they are here, their dispersion they always, if this they always face this way. If this is the floor and this is the wall, so they are always at an angle, so that the dispersion is not directly. And so if somebody is standing here, this dispersion is meant to go direct to their ears. And so I'll speak of two things about placing the monitor speakers. There are two things that are key about the monitor speakers: is the line of sight and the angle of placement. The monitor speakers are only meant to be a feedback to the speakers, and they're not meant to be the main output. And that's why, if you are keen enough, always the best practice is that if you look at this mixer, you always have the mains out left and right going to the normal speakers, but there's always a special channel out for monitors, because they always come with their balanced EQs from the mixers. The frequency and the intensity of the monitor speakers is not the same as for the main speakers. Are you together? And so I see some people combine the line of main speakers, main out, to the monitor speakers. The control of this monitor speaker should be always a third output of the main speakers. And so back to his question on if you are having several speakers at church, the angle and the line of sight now matters. If a speaker is speaking from the congregation and is close to the main speaker, the chances are 99% that you shall have a feedback. Because I shall be speaking, that sound goes to the mixer, goes to the amplifier, to the speaker. But because I'm close to the speaker with the microphone, I'll still speak that output and put it back into the microphone as an input again. And then we shall have something called what? A loop. And then we have now the echo, or that sound that is recurring. And as it proceeds until that intensity what is lost. And so always try as much as possible to be away from the main speakers. And even the monitor speakers, in as much as they have been designed to have their balanced EQs or equalizer within them, they can still be able to pick noise if you are so much close to them, or if the angle of placement of that monitor speaker is not in a way that it is away from the microphone. Are you together? Though the chances of getting a feedback from the monitor speakers are very low as compared to the main speakers. And so if members speaking of the congregation, please always try either to shield. Use your body as a shield away from the microphone, from the speaker, and use the microphone. And then that one takes me back to the kind of microphones that we so have. If I'm using this microphone is a unidirectional microphone. And if I speak and I face the congregation, and even the speaker is somewhere there, this microphone cannot pick sound from this direction. Are you together? And so with a unidirectional microphone, then I like to have less feedback when I'm close to to those speakers. And if I was using omnidirectional microphone, then I can pick that noise because omnidirectional speaker microphones can pick up to 70 degrees of the sound or of the noise. And that's why it is recommended for speakers, for preachers, for people just speaking, then the unidirectional microphone is the best for speakers. For choirs, the best microphone for them, because you cannot provide a microphone for every choir member. It's going to be costly to the church, and also the cost of maintenance is going to be very high for the church and for the system. And so for the choirs, you can always have omnidirectional microphones for them. A best example, a basic best example that I'm trying to look at a common place where these microphones are. You've gone to churches and you see that they have some microphone hanged. For those of us who have gone to Kenya National Theatre, they usually microphones that are usually hanged, and they lower it or raise it depending with the numbers. So those kind of speakers, they are usually small, and if you remove this cover, they're just small capsules. Their shape is always and then they have their holder there. They are able to pick from both directions. Are you together? So that's the best microphone for a large group of presenters. Soprano, their vocals vibrate faster. It vibrates faster. So that means that their frequency is high. So in 1 minute, they can have several vibrations from their vocals. So that makes them their voice to be high pitched, as opposed to our waimbaji wa bass hawananga mbio sana. So that is that. So if you come to the mixer, after assigning the microphones, it can even be this one. If a speaker is a bass person, a high frequency person, then you can also balance. For if you want high frequency, or if you want soap to be higher, then always come to the mixer, and you see these ones, these buttons, or these knobs. There's the basic one. There's the gain. Then we have they vary with the. There's the low frequency written here, there's the mid frequency, and there's the high frequency, the first three. The rest are now for the auxiliary, for the output of the, if you want this particular sound only to go to a particular monitor, then you can able to change them there using those. I think we can have a small session just to see to balance that one. So if you have, if you want sopranos, then give them high frequency. Go to that knob, then turn it clockwise to either half or past half, depending on how much you need it. It's always recommended that to start with what? With half. The 12-hour clock position. Then, as much as you need it, you can always add it. Then, if you're still on the sopranos, then go to the same line, go to the low frequency and take it to the negative side. Sawa. Then do reverse for the bass. The bass, the low frequency should be, the knob for the low frequency should be too much to the right, and then the knob for the higher frequency should be too much to the left. The mid, you can always maintain it at half, at 50. For alto and antenna, you can balance everything at the middle. Then so depending with how high the tenor is, then you can, because tenor is a high frequency male, alto is a low frequency for female. So you can try to balance it, try to adjust altos towards the bass, and adjust tenors towards the sopranos. You can have a very good microphone, a very powerful mixer, a very powerful amplifier, and very good speakers, but you fail to get a desired output. Why? Because you have the wrong cables. More often, we spend time that I need a good speaker, I need a good microphone. But how much time do we spend on on how much energy do we spend on choosing our cables and connectors? Some very key, small items, but very key. Cables are the highly counterfeit equipment, and so cheap is expensive. That's what I'm trying to say. So you can have a very good system, but you lose it because of what? Of the cable. As much as you invest in a good microphone, in a good mixer, in a good amplifier, a good speaker, invest in good cables. Are you together? How do you get a good cable? Check the copper content of that cable. If you are able to open it, just cut a small piece and try to twist it. A counterfeit cable, if you twist it, then inakaa iko na unga, then if you twist it further, it breaks. They start falling. But a pure copper content cable will not be having that one. We all know what from our basic physics or basic science that the best cheap transmission is through copper. If you could make silver, then you could, but copper is easily available and economical.
I'd like to start off with some few interactive questions, just for us to jua where we are at in regards to communication. Sawa. Now, I know all of us know what communication is. Sindio? I know we all know what communication is, but I want us, there's this quote that I found it really amazing, that the most important thing in communication is to hear what is not said. Sindio? That is the most important thing. And there's this amazing quote that I met from Nat Shana. He said, good communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity. Good communication is the bridge between confusion and clarity. And if you're to be honest, the Christian gospel has a lot of what? Ni kweli tuseme, si ndio? It has a lot of confusion. But the communication department, that cuts across from the pastoral department mpaka kwetu, works on what? Clarity. That's where we are at. Now, then what is communication? Communication department imechukuliwa kama watu wa PA system, ama wengine ni mtu ana handle microphone. Communication ideally is impacting and exchanging of information, speaking, writing, or using some other medium. A communication department is a section in an organization that works on channel a well-packed information through correct systems to attain a desirable end. Now, communication department is broad, but to narrow it to the church setup, I broke it down to these three particular departments, so to say. We have the media production, we have print or publishing. Unfortunately, publishing in our church inachukulianga kama watu wa vitabu huko. Sio, si ni ukweli? So we have media, print, and internal communication. Media department is pretty much focused on audiovisual. Sindio? This is pretty much to ensure a systematic way of capturing and presenting images to large masses. And print media, this I said tunajulikana hapa sana, but hata sisi wenyewe tuja appreciate. Or probably if we put aside the pamphlets that we put out, the print or publishing department inajulikana kama watu wa kuprint program ya Saturday. Sindio? Did you know that CITAM, they actually have an annual printout of their work? They print out publishing, they print out booklets and pamphlets to give their youth for ministry and evangelism out there. Kanisa tuko hapa busy tunasema ambassadors go preach, but you have not equipped them Someone's kila siku they don't equip them. Unfortunately, someone's kila siku they don't equip them. If we really broke down this department, we would see how massively underutilized print is in our church. Massively. Let me give you, since I'm going to use again CITAM, I interacted with one of the pamphlets they have, ambassadors. And I was like, wow. Because the material that is put there is not only visually captivating, but the message also in there reaches out to an ambassador. The pamphlets will talk about sex, but not the stereotype sex we have. Sisi tunangojanga saa tu ya youth ndio tunaongelea juu ya sex. Ni kweli ama ni uongo? Hakuna siku nishaisikia sex inaonga. Hakuna siku yenye ama watakuja kuongelea sex. It is coined for a youth department discussion. But if we worked on print, these pamphlets will be shared with the ambassadors and communication will be made in a robust way that hiyo siku instead of hiyo siku tunakuja kuangalia sex, let's talk about something else because we have a stable print and publishing department. Components of communication department. Most of us, you don't want me to talk about director, ISO. But how many of us think of God as part of the communication department? Not most of us. Yes, we preach about God, but it's not part of the communication. Sindio? If we appreciated this and this, maybe our communication departments will be different. What kind of people are chosen as head of communications? Yes, the noisy ones. Not someone who knows how to communicate or someone who has a little bit of a training in communication. It's just the noisy ones. Ule mtu anajulikana. Yes, Pastor.
In the past, in the past, before the era of now that we are, before the era of the COVID, the issues of communication were left with the church clerk.
Church clerk.
Yes, because at least he's the one who could maybe communicate with other church members.
Are we now appreciating that we actually need to evolve our communication departments? If our church would appreciate the need of having head of communication with someone who has an understanding, there's a possibility they don't have a training. There is a possibility, isn't there? But someone who has an understanding of communication department, someone that utakuja uambie, we actually need a budget for maintenance of our systems at least after every 6 months, or at least after kama ni 3 months and we know that the systems may run sana because of the programs. Ukienda kuambia head of communications or producer, we need maintenance service, they'll be like, sawa, write me the bill, write me the quote, tupeleke church. Director ni mtu. Do I need to explain director? I don't need to explain director. This part, I'm sure kuna mtu atauliza line managers, Kanisani we need line managers. We need line managers. If we're to break down the nitty-gritties za communication, typically in our church setup, kuna mtu wa kamera. Mtu wa kamera anastahili kushughulikia audio. Kama tuko na kamera 3 ama 4, is there a need for us to have someone to manage or rather coordinate them? Is there a need? Or do we still leave it up for the director? We have 3 cameras, sindio? We have audio. We have praise and worship wenye microphones ni 6 na kuna ule mtu wa busy mwenye lazima kule microphone. We have mtu wa kuproject, sindio? Kuna mtu mwenye kule nje anapatiana program, sindio? Kuna watu wa kustream. Do we see there's a need to have line managers? If anything, we even need floor managers. Kwa sababu tabia yenye tulikuwa nasema watoto wanapita hapa, nijua kuna coordination ya flow. The aspect of taking communication professionally will start with us appreciating the need to have these people. Am I making sense? We need to appreciate the need to have these people. Nitakwambia If we had a line manager wa audio, atakwambia hizi cable vile tumeweka hapa hazita run for 2 years. 2 years hazitafika. Juu kila mtu atakanyaga, si ndio? Na kuna wale mtakuja, sijui ni I don't know watu wenye handle mic, wenye mko in the audio department. Do you like it wakati mtu ameshika microphone anavuta hivi, alafu anashika hivi? Hiyo microphone itakaa ameshika hivi hiyo microphone itakaa sana, si ndio? Hapa inaanza kuharibikia hapa, si ndio? We need line managers to ensure every department, every line of production is properly kept properly. And if you asked me, genuinely, we don't need to invest 8 to 10 million in the communication department. But with what we have right now, appreciating where we are at, I'm not saying we should not invest, we should. But appreciating where we are at right now, if we had these systems in place, what we have right now can serve us effectively for a period of time. Wakati ya tutakuja kufika, tunaona vitu za 8 million. Si ndio? Let's have these particular systems in place. Daniel chapter 2 verse 21, it says, and he changed the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise and knowledge to them that know understanding. In the same spirit of appreciating professionals, this verse should reinforce why we need professionals in church. Hata kama ulipwi, let the church take you with your profession and employ this particular verse. Why do we still need this departmental breakdown? Now, I put this verse here deliberately because there was an argument that I had. Okay, let's just first read that verse. That is 1 Kings chapter 4 verse 23. 1 Kings chapter 4 verse 23, and my version says, that's KJV. Then he said, go, borrow thee vessels abroad of all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few, but borrow mingi zaidi. Now, this verse, we were having a discussion, some friends of mine, regarding how we run a communication department, and it was very interesting kwa sababu the argument was, you remember the story nilisema juu ya Sedo producing an audio for a cappella group. Sometimes we need to appreciate the luck that we have, and because we have not really enforced the need to have training sessions, sometimes it forces us to go out there and look for professionals. We go out there to borrow bowels. We go out there and tell Sami Mangi, who's an atheist, come, you understand this particular. Wendo unajua kwa kai cable vizuri vileta leta brrrr. Wendo unajua. So unajua kuja iweke. You seek for George mwenye alisema he wouldn't prefer to work with Adventist. But because you see the need, I know you don't like us, but come. You understand how this projector works. Please do it for us. If you cannot, train us how to do it. Because George will not sit here every day. He also wants to come to church and be blessed. He will train us how to press the power button kwa hii project and you work effectively. We need to do what? Borrow the bowels. We need to borrow the bowels and use them because we are in need. Our communication department is in need. How much are we giving of ourselves in service to God through communication? I know, speaking from exactly, I'm not speaking out of oblivion, I know you have given it your all. If you haven't, then you're in the wrong space. Sindio? If you haven't, my brother, you have done it longer than my experience in media. Congrats. I know you have given it your all. Sometimes you need to reinvent the wheel. There's nothing new. Yes, just need to reinvent. Change kidogo tu. the output will be better. How I wish. One, we have another session, and hopefully not just that, kwa sababu sisi tunaelewana, tunajua na tunaelewana. One, we have another session where we're going to have church officials. Watu wananga church board wakuja hapo hii training ni yao, si ndio? Hii training iko yao, nyinyi mnajua, si ndio? There's nothing new I've told you, probably just 1, 2, 3 things, you know. Hii meeting iko na wao. Thank you so much. God bless you.